Then we can have the configuration review. Okay. Now, matching the known software exploits to the version of software found running on the network. A vulnerability scan assess the configuration of the security controls and the application settings and compare permissions compared to establish the benchmarks. Okay, it might try to identify whether there is a lack of controls that might be considered necessary, or whether there is any misconfiguration of a system that would make the control less effective or ineffective. Okay, like the antivirus software not being updated, or management password left configured to the default. Okay. Now this sort of testing requires a credential scan. Okay, and it also requires specific information about the best practices in configuring a particular application or a security control. Okay. Now, security content and automation protocol, the SCAP, basically that allows the communication and compatibility scanners to determine whether a computer meets a configuration baseline, right? So SCAP uses several components to accomplish the function. Okay, and these are some of them: open vulnerability and assessment language. Okay, this basically an XML schema for describing system security state and querying vulnerability reports and information. Then extensible configuration checklist description format, XCCDF. Again, the XML schema for developing and auditing the best practice configuration checklist and the rules. Okay. Now, previous best practice guides might have been written in prose for a system administrators to apply manually. Okay, but this provides a machine-readable format that can be applied and validated using compatible software. Okay, some scanners measure the systems based on the compliance, you can say. Okay, compliance scan. Okay, and that might be necessary sometimes for the regulatory compliances, or if you want to voluntarily conform to externally agreed set best practices or the standard over there. There you can go for compliance based templates over there, so that you can perform the scanning on the basis of the compliance needs. Okay. Then there is something called the threat hunting. In the threat hunting, where the vulnerability scanning basically uses the list of patches and the standard definitions of baseline configuration. The threat hunting basically is an assessment technique that utilizes the insight gained from threat intelligence to proactively discover whether there is the evidence of TTPs already present within a network or a system. Okay. This basically is a reactive process that is only triggered when the alert conditions are reported through an incident management system. Okay. Now, a threat hunting project is likely to be led by the senior security analyst. Okay, but some general points to observe over there, like adversaries and the bulletins. Okay, threat hunting is a labor-intensive activity, so needs to be performed with clear goals and resources. Okay, it usually proceeds according to some hypothesis of possible threat. Okay, security bulletins and adversaries from the vendors and security researchers about the new TTPs or the vulnerabilities may be the trigger for establishing a threat hunt. Okay, like for example, if a threat intelligence reveals that Windows desktop in many companies are being infected with a new type of malware that is not being blocked by any current malware definition, then you might initiate a following threat hunting plan to detect whether the malware is also infecting your system, right? Then intelligence fusion and threat data is there. Okay, threat hunting can be performed by manual analysis of the network and log data, but this is very lengthy process. Okay, organization with the security information and event management and threat analytics platform can apply intelligence fusion techniques. Okay, the analytics platform is kept up to date with the TTPs and the IOC's threat feeds. Analysts can develop queries and filters to correlate the threat data against on-prem data from network traffic and logs. And this process may also be partially or wholly automated using the AI-assisted analysis and correlation. Okay. Then maneuver is there. When investigating a suspected live threat, you must remember that the adversarial nature of hacking. Okay, a capable threat actor is likely to have anticipated the likelihood of threat hunting and attempted to deploy countermeasures to frustrate the detection. Okay, maneuver is a military doctrine term relating to obtaining the positional advantage. Okay, threat hunting might use passive discovery techniques so that the threat actors are given no hint that an intrusion has been discovered before the security team has a containment, eradication, and a recovery plan ready. Okay, so that is basically threat hunting and some of the things that the techniques basically to perform the threat hunting. Okay, now the penetration testing concepts, the techniques that are used in penetration test. Let's discuss that. So a penetration test, okay, it's often shortened to pen test. Okay, used to discover the exploitable weakness in the target security system. Okay, and hack those weaknesses basically. Okay, it is also referred to as ethical hacking some way. Okay, and there are few steps that we need to perform. First, we need to verify the threat exists over there, like we can use a surveillance, social engineering, network scanners, and the vulnerability assessment tool to identify a vector by which the vulnerabilities uh, can be found, okay, that could be exploited. Then you need to bypass the security controls. We need to look for easy ways to attack the system. Like if a network is strongly protected by a firewall, it is possible to gain physical access to a computer in the building and run the malware from a USB stick. Okay, actively test the security control. Okay, we need to probe the controls for configuration weaknesses and errors like the weak passwords or the software vulnerabilities, and then exploit the vulnerabilities. Prove that a vulnerability is high risk by exploiting it to gain access to the data or install the backdoors. Okay, these are the four things that we need to do. Okay, now active and highly intrusive techniques compared to the vulnerability assessment. We know that vulnerability assessment can be done in both ways, intrusive and non-intrusive. Okay, when it comes to the penetration testing, it is active and highly intrusive techniques, so that we look for the vulnerabilities, we exploit the vulnerabilities, and then see that how much data is exposed. Okay, or in order to see how much data is exposed, we exploit those vulnerabilities out there.